Hello my sweet friends, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing the end of year book tag. I saw Bestie Destiny upload this the other day and I was like, I definitely need to get on that. I definitely need to participate. So shout out Destiny. I'll link her video down below. I think she created this tag with questions that her viewers sent in. So I've got my list of questions here. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't really thought about my answers to these questions because I thought it would be fun to kind of just do a bit of an impromptu situation, like first book that comes to my head when I read these questions, and I can grab the book out of the shelf. And that's why we've also got the mini mic going on, because if I'm like further away or closer to the camera, it's going to be different audio. But with this, hopefully it'll be consistent. So let's just jump straight into it. Question number 1 is most disappointing book of the year. This isn't like a bad book, it's just like a book that was disappointing to me personally. Like maybe I had very high expectations. I think I'm gonna have to go with Hopeless by Elsie Silver. This is the 5th and final book in the Chestnut Spring series by Elsie Silver, which I love. Like I love this series as a whole and I still enjoyed this book. I think I gave it like 3 or 3.5 stars. Like that's still a good rating, but I was expecting a lot from this and I don't think it quite delivered like what I was expecting. And like, yes, maybe that's my fault for going in with very high expectations, but I feel like as a final book in a series, like of course you're gonna have high expectations, especially because I loved the 3rd book, I loved the 4th book, and then this book I was just like, I feel like it just lacked the emotional depth that I was really hoping for. It was still good. It was just disappointing compared to like the expectation that I had of this book. I'm so sad to be saying that, but gotta speak my truth. Question number 2 is Underdog book of the year. So I'm assuming that means something that maybe not a lot of people talked about. I think I'm gonna have to go with Heartbreak House Share by Emily Merrill. I don't hear anyone talking about this and I don't know why, because I loved this book. I think I gave it maybe like 4.5 stars. In this book we follow Flick, who is in her 20s and she's just gone through her first like big breakup. She's been with her partner for like a few years, maybe 4 years, and she lived with him and she really like saw a future with him, and then one day he turned around and was like, I don't want to be with you anymore. And obviously at first she's really heartbroken about it, but then she kind of changes her perspective and she's like, maybe this is a chance for me to reinvent myself. So she writes a 20s list, which is a checklist for reclaiming her life post breakup. And she ends up like documenting this whole like 20s list situation in like a column because she's a journalist. And it's just so good. Like I feel like the premise doesn't do it justice. Like it's so much better than like what I just explained, because she moves into this share house with a bunch of other girls in their 20s and they're all at such different points of their lives. But I feel like it just portrays so well what it's like to be in your 20s and have other friends in their 20s, and how you can be at such different points in your life, but you can still have these friendships and you can all just be like doing different things. But it doesn't mean that any of you are necessarily behind, even if it feels that way. It was just so refreshing. And there's also a really sweet romance in this as she like meets this guy and he's just so sweet. I loved this book. I wish more people would read it. So this is your sign to go read it if that sounds good to you. Question number 3 is a book that was overhyped. I feel mean, but to me the first thing that comes to mind is actually a book that I don't have on my shelf because I read it on my Kindle. It doesn't mean that I didn't like these books, because I did like these books, but they just didn't live up to the hype, I would say, in my opinion. And that is like the Daughter of No Worlds. What is the series called? The War of Lost Hearts trilogy. I liked them, I did, but I didn't love them. And the way people described them to me, I thought I was going to be obsessed with them. I feel like people were like, this is the new Sarah J Maas. Like you're gonna feel the same way about these books as you did about like ACOTAR and Throne of Glass and all of those books, and I just did not feel the same way. I think the first book was my favorite. I feel like as the series progressed, it just became a bit confusing and a bit like messy in my mind. Maybe I wasn't paying close enough attention. It felt like it dragged on for so long. Those second 2 books, like the 3rd book particularly, it was like a headache for me to get through it, and it was still good. Like when I look back on the book, I was like, it was a good book objectively, but I just did not have a great time reading it because it felt so like difficult for me to comprehend it. And so I think I just went in with obviously very high expectations. Everyone was comparing it to Sarah J Maas, and like everyone compares every fantasy series to Sarah J Maas. So I need to stop letting myself have that expectation. But I also know so many people love this series, and obviously I don't think they're lying. Like I think they genuinely did. I just think it wasn't a series for me. Question number 4 is favorite book couple. I might run you through a few because I feel like I have a few. I think first one that comes to mind is definitely Divine Rivals. I feel like the love story in this book was unmatched. So freaking good. I don't understand how in such a short book I felt so extremely attached to the characters. Like, this book is a beautifully written book and it's got a great plot as a whole, but honestly, like, the plot is very secondary compared to the romance. Like, to me, this is like a romance and like, yeah, the plot's there, it exists, but like this book, the way I felt about it and like the reason I gave it 5 stars is 100% because of the romance, and I haven't stopped thinking about it ever since. And like the quotes from this book, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. His letter felt like an embrace, like reaching for a friend in the darkness and finding their hand. It just felt like an old-fashioned love story in the best way possible, like so like wholesome and pure. I just absolutely loved it. His gaze was wholly consumed by her, like just the way it's written. Immense joy so deep there was no end to it, nor a way to measure it. He felt it break across his face in a wide smile, create a skip in his breath. Please go read Divine Rivals, like, please. Another one that I have to mention is definitely Johnny and Shannon from Binding and Keeping 13. It's just like the epitome of a first love and like finding safety in a person. I find these books very conflicting because there's a lot of really difficult things to read about in these books, but there's also just this, again, very like pure, beautiful love story between Johnny and Shannon, and they just love each other so well. Yes, they're young and like they do make mistakes because they're young and they don't really know how to communicate and they haven't got great examples of love in their lives and things like that, but you can tell they're trying their best, and I love that. Hi Johnny. Hi Shannon. Another one of my favorite couples has to be Jasper and Sloane from Powerless. This is the 3rd book in the Chestnut Spring series, and I adored this book. Like, Jasper, Sloane is soothing. She's the eye of the storm, true north. Somehow our compasses always bring us back to each other. You're kidding. You're absolutely kidding. Oh, this is one of my favorite quotes. I love this. If you have Jasper Jervis's attention, you've got it all. And that's because he wants you to have it. He doesn't just listen to me, he hears me, he sees me. And there's something precious about that. The way he can look at someone and make them feel like the only person in the room. My heart. I'm obsessed. Question number 5 is your favorite main character. This is such a hard question. Obviously, I think I'll have to pick a few for this one as well. Obviously, straight off the bat, we have to mention the one, the only Mr. Julian Hates. Oh my gosh. Julian Hates. What the heck did Jessa Hastings put in this? There is drugs in this book, I swear, because the way she writes characters is just unlike any other. Like, the way Julian Hates was written. Best I can do is act like she means nothing to me. Pretty hard to do when she means it all. Obviously, we've got the classic, like the one that everyone quotes. She is the goddess in the, I always say this wrong. The goddess in the Botticelli clamshell. Her eyes are the water lilies in Monet's pond. She is the hand of God reaching down to mankind. Klimt's kiss is a portrait of us and I'm gonna steal it. Take it, make it mine, make her mine too. I hate loving her. It's the great undoing of my heart as I know it. There is something about a mafia man falling in love that is just something special. Like, Julian Hates. You know what? This is an unpopular opinion, but one of my favorite characters that I've read about this year is 100% Evangeline from Once Upon a Broken Heart, like from this whole trilogy. So many people complain about Evangeline, and I get it. She is a bit ditzy, she's a bit silly, she's a little bit like airy-fairy, but why do I relate so much to Evangeline? Like, I wish I didn't, but I would 100% do all the things that Evangeline does in these books. Like, if I was in her position and like, you know, in this world, I would 100% make the same mistakes that she does. Like, she's an idiot, but also same. Obviously, I want to mention Jax as well. I do absolutely love Jax. That Prince of Hearts is also just something else. But Evangeline, she's one of my favorite characters. She's so entertaining. She's so stupid, but in the best way. She's so delulu, but also same. So I got to admit it, she's a fave. Question number 6 is a book that surprised you. Right up the top. 100% Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. It is general fiction, I think, or literary fiction. I don't know exactly which one. And it's such a hard book to describe, and I think that's why I didn't pick it up for so long, because no matter how someone describes it, you can never describe it as well as what the actual book is like. Does that make sense? Like the actual book, like reading it is such a better experience than anyone can ever put into words, in my opinion. Like if I was to try and explain it to you right now and just be like, oh, it's about like these two friends and like it's not really a romance, but there is romance in it, and there's like video games in it, and they like make a video game, and it like spans over like 20 years, and there's also their friend Marks, and he is also a really great character as well, and he's kind of like their manager, and you get to see them grow up and like make mistakes, and they're also very flawed characters, like a little bit problematic at times. Like it doesn't sound good, but then you read it and it's so good. Like these characters and this story felt so real. The fact that these characters don't exist is mind-blowing to me. So if you haven't read this book, I cannot recommend it enough. My aunt also read it this year, and she said it's like her favorite book of the year, and she also reads a lot. And then all of the girls in my book club gave it 5 stars. Like I know it's not for everyone, but so many people love this. I feel like it appeals to so many different types of people and people who have such different reading tastes. Like for me, I don't really read a lot of literary fiction or general fiction, but this was so good. Definitely recommend. So that definitely surprised me, because obviously it's not my usual genre. Question number 7 is new favorite author that you discovered in 2023. Honestly, a lot of my favorite authors from this year are authors that I have already previously read from. So Jessa Hastings, Sarah J Maas, Emily Henry, Lucy Score, Jennifer Lynn Barnes, Cassandra Clare. So like a lot of them are authors I've already read from. New to me authors this year that I hadn't read before this year, I would have to, of course, say Stephanie Garber, because these books, this trilogy, the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy, is easily in my top favorite books of the year, and I can't believe I left it this long to read it. Like I know I'm an idiot. You guys told me to read it earlier, and I should have listened to you. I should have. I'm so sorry. But her writing is just so magical and ethereal and beautiful, and I adored my reading experience with these books. Number 8 is Happiest Read of the Year. I feel like 2 books come to mind specifically for me. Firstly, Renegades by Marissa Meyer. I loved Renegades. This is a YA sci-fi. It follows superheroes. It's kind of like good versus evil, a lot of secret identities and just like secrets in general. It was one of those books where I was just like, I feel like a kid again reading a really great book, and your mum is like, Rachel, like come and wash the dishes, and you're like, no, I can't put this book down. I just want to keep reading. Like it was just fun. It did still have depth to it and really great characters in it, but it didn't feel heavy. And sometimes you just need a book that feels light and fun and happy, and I feel like Renegades really gave me that. And the other one that really comes to mind is definitely When in Rome by Sarah Adams. This is one of my favorite romance books of the year. I definitely wasn't expecting to love this as much as I did, but it was just, again, just so fun and made me so happy. It made me giggle. It made me kick my feet. It wasn't too serious. Like obviously it's a rom-com, so it was just like silly goofy, but again, just had depth and was just like a fun time. So if you want a good rom-com, I adored this one. Number 9 is most frustrating book of the year. I think I'm gonna go with Cursed Crowns by Catherine Doyle and Catherine Weber. This is a sequel to Twin Crowns, and I quite enjoyed Twin Crowns. I thought it was it was fun. It's a YA fantasy. It wasn't anything revolutionary. It's about these like twins who were separated at birth. One of them grows up a princess and the other one grows up with the witches, and the witches hate the royal family and the royal family hate the witches. And then the witch twin kidnaps the princess twin and switches places with her, and it's like this whole thing, and it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. But then they brought out a sequel, and when I say that that book just should have been a standalone, I really mean it. And I love a series, I really do, but when a sequel comes out and it just feels like they are extending the series for kind of no reason, I just am like, oh, you kind of ruined it. Like now I look at that series and I'm like, ugh. But if they just finished it after the first book, I would have been like, yeah, this is great. And I think I gave this like 2 stars because it just didn't need to exist. Number 10 is best adaption of the year. So like movie or TV show. I don't really watch a lot of movies or TV shows, so I don't have anything. I think the only adaptation that I saw this year was The Summer I Turned Pretty season 2. So I will have to say that, which I enjoyed it. It was really good. Question 11 is the longest book you read this year. It would have to be Queen of Air and Darkness by Cassandra Clare. This is the 3rd book in the Dark Artifices, and she's chunky. She is chunky. This is 870 pages. The longest book I've read ever is Kingdom of Ash, which is just under 1,000, but I read that last year. So I think this year, I think it would be this, because even Crescent City is like 800. I love the Shadowhunters. Shortest book that you read this year. If we're not including novellas, I would say Slow Days, Fast Company, The World, The Flesh, and LA by Eve Babbitt. This is a super short little book. think 170-ish pages. Oh, 160. 160 pages, a little non-fiction book full of little like essays about Eve Babbitt's life and like the boys that she dated and the adventures that she went on when she was like the it girl in LA. And it's a lot of fun. I definitely recommend. Number 13 is favorite book covers. I love beautiful book covers, so let me show you a few of my favorites from this year. I would definitely have to say the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy as a whole, but I think the third book, A Curse for True Love, is my favorite. I just love the colors on it, but these are just absolutely beautiful. I would also have to mention Daisy Hates the Great Undoing, the original cover. All of the Magnolia Parks covers are just absolutely gorgeous, but this is just stunning. Monet's pond in the background, and then we have the tattoos. The daisy, the clamshell, the pancakes, the tiger. I just love it when front covers have like hidden meanings that you don't know until you read the actual book. This is also a recent favorite of mine. This is Tom Lake. And I adore this cover, and it's also probably one of the most beautiful like book editions that I own because of the little sprayed edges on the side, or I don't even know if they're sprayed or stenciled or what, but it's got this beautiful design that matches the front cover, and I am utterly obsessed with this. And then I also have to mention Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. This is again another favorite of mine. This just sums up the book so well. It's just so magical and like fairy tale-esque, and that is exactly what this book is like. Question number 14 is a book that you haven't stopped thinking about. I want to say Daisy Hates the Great Undoing, but I've already talked about that one enough. So you can just assume that I adore that book and I definitely never stop thinking about it. But apart from that, I want to say The Last Hours by Cassandra Clare. And also The Infernal Devices. Infernal Devices and The Last Hours. These books take place in London in the Victorian era. And I just love the atmosphere that these books create and the characters. Like I got so attached to these characters over the course of those books. The Infernal Devices follows like one set of characters, and then The Last Hours follows those characters' children. So it's just so fun, because you get to see like the original characters and then what they're doing, but also what the kids are like and what they get up to, and how like the personalities are similar and different. And it just feels so special. And I just think about these characters a lot because they kind of feel like my friends, and I love them and I miss them. Question number 15 is the cringiest book that you read this year. Ooh. I think I would have to go with Tell Me Lies. I actually didn't finish this. I DNF'd it. I love the cover of it, but the actual book itself, like, it is not it. I can't be bothered finding them now, but there were also definitely parts of that book where it was like, I just knew that Lucy was like pure, and I just wanted to corrupt her and make her mine, and I was like, no, not for me. Question 16 is unpopular book that you loved. Ooh, I don't really know. I don't think people necessarily hated this book, but I don't think people like loved it. And I didn't like love it, but I think I liked it more than other people did, and I think I rated it higher than other people did. And that is The Stolen Heir by Holly Black, which is like a little spin-off series from The Cruel Prince. I feel like a lot of people had really high expectations going into this because a lot of us really loved the Folk of the Air trilogy, and I did too. But I feel like a lot of people just were really disappointed by this, and I didn't rate it like 5 stars, but I definitely enjoyed my time reading this, and I like had fun in this world and with these characters. So I don't think I was as disappointed as other people were, but I don't know if there's anything that I was like obsessed with that a lot of people hated. Question number 17 is highest and lowest book you read on Goodreads, and do you agree? I didn't log all of my books on Goodreads, but I think I logged most of them. How do I even work this out? I have no idea how to use Goodreads. I will say though, I've been trying to keep up with it and just use it more this year. So if you want to follow me on Goodreads, I always have it linked down below. Let's rate by average rating. Ooh, the highest rated book that I read this year is Some Kind of Perfect by Krista and Becca Ritchie, which is the final book, like the epilogue novel in the Addicted/Calloway Sisters series. The average rating is 4.67, which is pretty incredible. And I rated this 5 stars too, so I definitely agree. And then the lowest rated book that I read this year is Not Rating Mr. Right by Anita Heiss, which is this book here. It has an average rating of 2.94, and I can't remember exactly what I rated this. I either rated it a 2.5 or a 3. So I do also agree with that one. It wasn't like awful, it just wasn't amazing in my opinion. Question number 18 is favorite quotes of the year. I feel like I've gone through a few of them. Obviously The Great Undoing and Powerless and Divine Rivals, but I also have a lot of favorite quotes from Happy Place, but they're all on my Kindle app. My best friends taught me a new kind of quiet, the peaceful stillness of knowing one another so well you don't need to fill the space, and a new kind of loud, noise as a celebration, as the overflow of joy at being alive, here, now. I love that. The amount of times I cried reading that book was a little bit excessive. He's become my best friend the way others did, bit by bit, sand passing through an hourglass so slowly it's impossible to pin down the moment it happens, when suddenly more of my heart belongs to him than doesn't, and I know I'll never get a single grain back. He's a golden boy. I'm a girl whose life has been drawn in shades of grey. Ooh, the pain. The pain. Question 19 is book with the most unique concept. Ooh, I really don't know. Maybe if I thought about it for longer, I might come up with a different answer, but I think I'm gonna go with Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. I don't even know how to explain the world and the magic system, but in this world, if you die in a really honorable way, you return as a god, and power is based on breath, and you can like collect other people's breath as like a form of currency, and the magic kind of works through like color. Like, it's really hard to explain, but when you read it, it all makes perfect sense. I'm doing a terrible job at explaining it, but I feel like the concept of it is just really well thought out, and I've just never read anything like it. It had like obviously elements that were very similar to other books that I've read, but the magic system itself, I would say, is very unique. Question number 20 is a book that you would reread. I feel like this year is the first year where I've really done rereads. I reread Magnolia Parks, I reread the Akatar series, I've started my reread of Throne of Glass, but I'm not finished yet. I've reread up to Queen of Shadows, but I still have to read the last 3. I reread Archer's Voice. Like, I did a few rereads, honestly. I definitely want to reread the rest of the Magnolia Park series because I haven't reread the whole series, just the first book. I definitely want to reread Happy Place and Beach Read because those are 2 of my favorite books, and I read Beach Read back in 2021, so I want to like reread it and see how I feel about it now. I think Divine Rivals, definitely, and also probably the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. Like, I definitely want to do a reread of that one and like annotate it fully and highlight and everything. And also I really want to do a reread of The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo because again, I read that a few years ago and I loved it, but I just want to see what my thoughts are on it now, because I did a reread of Daisy Jones and the Six this year and I loved it. I loved it the first time, I loved it the second time, so I'm assuming Evelyn Hugo will be the same because it's the same author, and I feel like I felt very similarly about both of them, but we'll see. Question 21 is reading goal reflection and 2024 reading goal. So my reading goal for this year was 80 books. I have reached that goal, which is great. I don't know exactly how many books I read this year. It's in my reading journal. Shall I grab it? Let's go check actually. I do track my reading on Goodreads, but I don't track every book because I honestly just forget, but I do track every single book in my reading journal, so it's a much more reliable way. Okay, so I'm filming this on the 6th of December, so we do still have like the rest of the month to go, but as we speak, I have read 185 books, which I am really happy with. I feel like numbers don't necessarily reflect any sort of level of success or anything like that. Just read because it's fun. If you're reading, you're winning. So in saying that, I think I'm going to make my reading goal for 2024 100 books, because honestly next year I actually want to read less than what I've read this year, because I do want to prioritize other things, because I want to make sure that I'm spending time with the people that I love, and sometimes I can definitely become a bit of a recluse. I love my home. I love staying in. I love reading a book, but I need to make sure I'm actually leaving the house and actually like doing things as well. So, and I also want to prioritize reading like longer books and books that might intimidate me a bit. So in order to be able to pick up those like longer books and like really big fantasy series that sound really exciting to me, I think having a lower reading goal will help me not like feel bad about picking up a longer book, you know? And the last question, question number 22, is what are you prioritizing in 2024 with your reading? I feel like I already touched on this a little bit with the last question. So I want to read probably a bit less, but also try and pick up books that intimidate me a little bit more. I also do want to try and read a few more genres. I love reading fantasy, romance, and like mystery thrillers, but also when I picked up Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow this year, that's like literary fiction and I loved that. So like I need to try and branch out a little bit more. I also want to really work on my physical TBR, get that down to a really like manageable number for me and like a number that doesn't seem overwhelming to me, and also utilize my library a lot more, because I love my library, but I feel like because I have such a huge physical TBR, I'm like, oh, I just need to read the books I have instead of going to the library. But if I get that down to a manageable level, then I feel like I won't feel bad about going to the library. And apart from that, just have fun, because reading brings me so much joy, and I love the community that it has brought me online. Like, you guys are the sweetest, most loving people, and I am so thankful that you guys like watching my videos and just like hanging out with me because it makes me so incredibly happy. And the friends that I've made through the book community, honestly, the book community is so sweet. I just couldn't be more thankful for it. So I just love you guys, and I'm just so thankful for everything you have done for me this year and for giving me the chance to create this content because you watch it and you like it and you interact with it. Like, I couldn't ask for anything more. So I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for watching. I would love to know, what are your reading goals for 2024? Let me know in the comments because maybe you'll inspire me to add a few more goals to my list. But I hope you all have a great day or night whenever you're watching this, and I will see you in my next video very soon. Goodbye.